you ever wondered what the universe is made of? What's the fundamental building block of everything around us? Is it atoms? Or perhaps something even smaller? Well, what if I told you that, at the most basic level, everything, every particle, every force, and even you could be made of something completely different from what we think? Welcome to the world of string theory, a groundbreaking idea in physics that suggests that everything we see, from the tiniest particles to the vast cosmos, might be made up of tiny, vibrating strings. So, what is string theory exactly? Imagine you've got a guitar string. It can vibrate in many different ways, right? Now, what if every particle in the universe, like electrons, protons, and even light, wasn't just a little point, but rather a tiny one-dimensional string? Each of these strings vibrates differently, and it's those vibrations that determine what kind of particle it is. In the 1960s, scientists were trying to figure out how particles in the atom interact, especially under the strong nuclear force. They discovered that a formula, called the Veneziano amplitude, could describe the way particles scatter. This formula looked a lot like the behavior of strings, which led to the idea that particles might actually be tiny vibrating strings, not points. Fast forward to the 1970s. Physicists like Yoichiro Nambu and Holger Beck Nielsen took the idea further and began to develop string theory as we know it today. Why is that important? Well, string theory doesn't just describe particles. It has the potential to unify all the fundamental forces of nature. In other words, gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces could all be linked through the vibrations of these strings. Now, let's take it a step further. What about the origin of matter itself? String theory suggests that after the Big Bang, all the energy released could have caused strings to start vibrating. As these strings vibrated, they formed the particles that would eventually combine to create the matter we see today: planets, stars, and of course, us. String theory also proposes something fascinating: extra dimensions. We live in a world with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, but string theory suggests that there are actually 10 or 11 dimensions in total. Some of these dimensions could be so tiny, curled up, and hidden from us that we can't even detect them, but they may play a key role in how strings behave. So, to sum it up, string theory tells us that the basic building blocks of matter aren't tiny particles, but rather tiny vibrating strings. The way these strings vibrate gives rise to different particles, and the forces of nature, like gravity and electromagnetism, could all be connected through these vibrations. In a way, everything, matter, forces, even the universe itself, might just be the result of one giant cosmic symphony of strings vibrating in higher dimensional space. It's an exciting and mind-boggling theory, but there's still a lot we don't know. String theory is still being researched and developed, and while it hasn't been experimentally proven yet, it's a fascinating idea that could someday help explain the origins of everything in the universe.